Hi guys, I'm going to talk to you about what I think makes a great GM. Now, people come to me at conventions all the time and they say, oh, I hope I get you as my GM. And I often wonder, well, what sets me apart from other GMs? And the answer is, I think I've just spent a bit more time working out how to be a good GM. I'm going to give you those tips and tricks that I've picked up over the last 20 years. And so hopefully you will become one of those GMs that people go, hey, I want to be in your game. So what makes a good GM? In my opinion, a GM is responsible for one thing and one thing only, creating fun. And in doing so, having fun. So how do you create fun as a GM? How do I create fun as a GM? Well, I do three things. Firstly, I use my imagination. Secondly, I ask questions. As surprising as that might sound, I ask the questions. And thirdly, I work with my players in creating backstories. Let's look at them in detail. Point number one, imagination. A lot of people say, oh, I don't have a very good imagination. Oh, I could never GM, my imagination is not very good. Now, I've been lecturing for 10 years on creative writing, and let me tell you something, everybody's got a good imagination. You might just not know how to use it properly. Here are the four things that make up imagination, and you can practice three of them and use a fourth one on a daily basis, and it's going to help you become a better GM. Point number one, research. The more you research, the more you read, the more that you look at pictures, the better your imagination becomes. If your game is set in the Star Wars universe, go watch Star Wars. Look at pictures of Star Wars. Try and get the idea of what Star Wars is and what it looks like into your head. The more imagery that you can cram into your head, the more imagery you can bring to your game, which is going to help you be a better GM because it's going to make it feel real. The next one is experience. Bring your experiences to the table. The last time that you went walking in the mountains or whatever, what did it smell like? What did it feel like? How tired were you when you got to that campsite or whatever the case might be? Add that to your arsenal. Thirdly, inspiration. Inspiration can strike at any moment. Don't just dismiss it. Store it away and you might be able to use it later on. Brushing your teeth, image of a troll in a cave, but you're running a Star Trek game. Well, that doesn't matter. Store the troll in the cave away for later. You might one day run a fantasy adventure, in which case the troll in the cave suddenly becomes a flash of inspiration and your players are having fun because out of nowhere this troll in a cave suddenly appears. The last point, and this is one that you can practice on a daily basis, is Freeform Association. Now, players are never ever going to follow your story. It doesn't matter how well you've written it, doesn't matter what kind of GM you are, if your players have any amount of imagination themselves, they're going to be going where their characters want to go. They're not going to be going where you want them to go. So, Freeform Association, this is how it works. Take a banana, take a pink minivan, and take a man named Peter Chang. Link the three of them together now. You can practice this. Randomly pick three things and link them together with a story. Then try and link them together with a different story. The more ways that you can come up with different stories to link these three things together, the faster you become at free association. Link things together using your research, using your experience, and using those flashes of inspiration, and suddenly your encounters, your adventuring world becomes alive because the players never know what's coming up because you don't know what's coming up either. So you're exploring it just as much as they are. And that means you're having fun, which means most likely they'll be having fun. I love Freeform Association. In my class, we used to call it inserting a giant banana. So if you're stuck, if your characters are in an inn, or if they're not moving forward in the story, insert a giant banana, whether that happens to be the form of a dragon suddenly landing, or whether the starship suddenly collides with a rogue asteroid, whatever the case might be. Use your imagination to liven things up. Remember, your job is to create fun. And if the players aren't having it, terribly sorry, it's your fault as the game master. Let's move on to the next topic of being a game master and being a good game master. Asking questions. I ask my players questions all the time. What do you think is going to happen next? What does your character want you to do? Why do you think your character wants to achieve this goal? What do you think the barman's after? What is the most mysterious setting that we could possibly put this in? I ask my players questions all the time. I ask them specifically, okay, did everybody have fun with that? We use WhatsApp after a game, and we do a sort of a dissemination of what happened. If my players are talking about how awesome an experience their characters were, and they're talking about events that were happening in the game, I've achieved my job. If my players are starting to talk about rules, or they're starting to talk, oh, well, we're not sure about this, or then something's gone wrong. So ask questions. The players will tell you the story. All you need to do is listen to them. And then you give them that story, but in a completely different way. Not only will they feel satisfied, but they'll also think that you're a genius for anticipating where they think or where they thought they were going. Meanwhile, they told you. And finally, backstory. I work with my players when they're creating backstory. And the reason is that backstory is actually the story that they want to explore. So if you give them their backstory, if you let them explore where their backstory was going to, they're going to think that you're a pretty amazing GM. They're going to think that you tailored your entire world just for them. And nothing makes a player have more fun than if he's exploring something which he thinks he created in the first place. So when my characters create backstory, we've gone through the process of discussing what system we're going to play. We've gone through the process of discussing what world we're going to play in. I prefer to play in my own worlds, but that's a whole nother session. But I then sit with them and say, okay, let's do backstory. Where does your character come from? What does your character want to do? Why does your character want to do that? Who does your character know? All those kind of questions, and we can handle character creation and character backstory in another session as well. But principally, I like to know what their backstory is. And I like to have input into that backstory. So I let them come up with it. They go off and a week later they come back and sit around the table and they kind of talk to me, or we WhatsApp privately. This is what I want my character to have. I want this demon to have this hold over my character, or whatever the case might be. It doesn't really matter. The point is the players are writing it. Now you will get some players who go, oh, I don't know about backstory. Whatever. He's a soldier. Help them to create their backstory. Use the tools of imagination and asking questions to help them create a backstory for their character. Don't try and force ideas onto them. Just plant seeds in their head. Remember, you want it to feel like it's their idea, which hopefully it will be. But because you're part of that process, because you are understanding what their characters' backstories are, you can then start to use that to insert the giant banana. You might have a random mission that has nothing to do with any of the characters, but you remember that the one character is on a quest to find the heirloom of his lost grandmother. So, as part of the treasure in this random ogre cave, which came from a previous inspirational moment that you had, you put half of the heirloom in there. Or perhaps you put in a note of sale that contains information about the character's heirloom. The player will pick up on it instantly, and they will think that that entire adventure was just for them. They will think that you as the game master had planned it all along. And as a result, they think that you are an awesome game master. So that's just some of the basics on what I think makes a good game master. There are a whole lot more which we can explore, so if you like this video, click on like, and if you want to see more, click on that subscribe button. Until then, good luck, happy gaming. Someone wants something badly and is having difficulty getting it.